All right, how's everyone doing? I'm Rich Celenza. Thanks for checking out my channel. So what I want to get into today is being obsessed with possessions. Because I definitely was one of those type of people. And I'm not here to first tell anyone how they should live their life regarding if you want certain things, go after them and get them. If you want a big, beautiful home, sports car, or whatever you want in your life, travel around the world. God bless you. Do whatever you want to do. I'm just going to kind of give you an insight on kind of what I went through that I think eventually drove me nuts to a certain point. And it was being obsessed with possessions and enough never being enough, if that makes sense. And I went through that actually in my mid-20s, and I grew up in a wonderful household with my mother being there for me and my father owning a nightclub. And I had two really kind of different sides of my family. I had one family that was kind of struggling when they were in my youth. A lot of them were painters or involved with construction, or they just weren't as wealthy as, say, my other side of the family, who was more middle class, upper middle class, had an entirely different lifestyle from, traveling, homes, the neighborhoods they lived in. So I kind of was raised between, I guess you could say, upper middle class and then lower middle class. And that's not a diss on, my lower class family at that point in time, because a lot of my family members that were in the lower middle class or lower class definitely are more upper middle class now. But back in the 70s and 80s, it was a lot different than it is now. But I was raised where, my father, for instance, he loved sports cars, he owned a nightclub, and he came from a wealthy household. He even went to military school his whole life. And he always gave me the confidence to go after everything I wanted to go after. And my mother too, even though she didn't have a lot, she always wanted me to do better and get more. And that is understandable. She wanted me to have as much as I can have in my life, and she also wanted me to have all the things she didn't have. So those are all great things, but I think I took it upon myself to kind of take things to another level. I didn't even want to really waste my time going to college, even though I did go for a year, because I was so obsessed with wanting to make money. And I think growing up in my father's nightclub, I saw a lot of money being exchanged at a very young age. And I also was around adults for the most part all the time. So I was around a lot of people that had money, a lot of people that had certain types of cars, certain people traveled, certain people had certain lifestyles that I wanted to emulate. And then at 18 years old, I came to Florida and I started working with my father and making money. And I was gambling as well, and we were doing other things, and we were making a lot of money at a very young age, especially in my mid-20s. And then I really kicked it in gear, and we were working very hard, and I became obsessed with making money and obsessed with getting as many possessions as possible. I guess you could say I used to go for and say I want to retire by 30, I want to be a multimillionaire by 30, and all these different types of things. But I realized no matter what I was doing, I was always like chasing. I felt like somebody was chasing something, and even if I couldn't afford it, I would find a way to get it and even finance it, which was sometimes good and sometimes bad. But I remember in my later 20s, my ex-wife, she was in real estate, commercial real estate. So I said, I'm going to go get my real estate license. So I know what the hell her and her mother were talking about. They were running an office in Orlando. So I went and got my real estate license. And I remember being there. And at this point in time, I'm like in my late 20s. And I was getting, I think, ready to have a child, my first child. And then I remember being at the school, and they had a poster, and it literally said, one day you can have all this, and it showed a house, a beautiful home with a gated community. And I said, well, I already have that. And then they said, own your own Lincoln. It was a Lincoln town car. I literally had a Lincoln in a town car, and I had a Cadillac, brand new Cadillac, I think back then. And it had a Rolex watch, and I looked on and I had the Rolex watch. And it showed a bunch of cash, I think. And I said, well, I work in the cash industry. And it hit me then and there, like, I have all these things, and I'm not saying I wasn't happy. I was very happy, but it was not nearly enough for me. And I get that a lot of people want to exceed and want more and more and more, which is wonderful. But what I was really realizing about myself was I truly wasn't even happy with what I already had, for one. And two, I just kept falling into a mindset where no matter what I purchased, if I brought a Rolex for my ex-wife, hypothetically, or I had to go to Vegas to buy these clothes, or I had to buy this, I became somebody truly that I wasn't after a while. And by being obsessed with making money and possessions kind of led me far away from things that I always wanted to do, which was like, say, become a filmmaker or write a book or write screenplays or do whatever I wanted to do from a creative standpoint, because I was so obsessed with thinking about money, or making payments on things that I wanted, that I kind of lost focus. And I think that happens with a lot of people. I think too, a lot of us neglect our health during this process as well. So you're obsessed with making money, and you're working all the time for the most part, a lot of times. And if you're not working, you're still thinking about it or trying to, make phone calls or doing all these things that just keep bringing in more cash flow, or even investing in things that'll make cash flow, which is wonderful if that's you want to do that. I just finally started to realize, though, I truly wasn't myself. And I remember even my ex-wife saying, all you care about are possessions. You're obsessed with, it's almost like keeping up with the Joneses too. And no matter what anyone says, it becomes competitive with friends, family members, colleagues. I got to have more. I got to have a bigger house. I got to be able to do more. Just all these different types of things. It could be even like, oh, okay, now I got to live on a golf course. Okay, now I have to do this. Whatever it was, I just was exhausted from that. And I remember even my friends saying, hey, you're falling into a slump. I'm like, how can I fall into a slump when I'm in this financial situation? But if you fast forward a year later, then I had a daughter who fell onto, she had some health issues. So what I really realized about myself during this whole process is, and you hear about it all the time, is, there's more to life than just possessions, money. And don't get me wrong, money smooths a lot of shit out. Don't let anybody kid you. If you can make money doing what you love, it doesn't get any better than that. But there does come a point in your life, I think, where you become, I can't speak for anyone else, but where I became obsessed with that. And I think I even lost sight of who I am, what I truly was doing it for. I think when you start on the bottom a little bit, and you're first doing it for, say, get a nice car, and then I want to get a house, and then I want to travel. And as you go on and on and on, then you kind of hit the wall and say, okay, I've done all those things. Where do I go from here? And I think that's where a lot of people find themselves miserable. They either go to drugs or alcohol, because I think they do accomplish a lot of goals that they went after. But there does come a point in time where you're like, how much further do I really want to go? How much stress am I willing to take on, I guess you could say. And at that point in my life, I legitimately, I always wanted to be 260 pounds. I was 250 pounds. I was stronger than I ever was. I had all these goals that I kept accomplishing. And I actually I was self-aware to say, man, you're kicking it in the ass. You're doing this. And I was able to help others if they needed money or whatever they needed, buying dinners constantly for everybody, taking people out, traveling with them. And I loved sharing that. But on the other end, I was I'd hate to say a lost soul. I just really was kind of empty inside, because I was spending, again, so much time doing that, but I really also wasn't focusing in on the world. Is just how, just spending time with my friends is so genuine. Doing things with family members, very genuine. Just doing things that aren't so money related or or possession driven, I guess you could say. And again, I'm not here to tell anybody to stop work and do any of that shit. Don't get ridiculous. I want everybody to have everything they always wanted, but just become self-aware sometimes that you may be in a lot better position than you think you are, even though you may not have a huge home, a gated community, a sports car, or whatever you want. You may be in an amazing place in your life. You just haven't acknowledged it. And I think a lot of wealthy people, or people that are starting to make money, it's interesting when they talk, because they're always bitching about all the stress and all the, things that they have to handle and keep going through. And they'll always kind of talk about their past, like the old days. Man, it was so easy when I did this or did that. Life doesn't have to be that complicated. It can be fun. I'm telling you, regardless if you have a lot of money or not. And the people in your life, I think more than anything, is what you have to really acknowledge and enjoy, because once they're gone, they're gone. It's priceless. Money can't literally buy everything. We've heard it a million times, but I'm telling you right now, regarding being obsessed with possessions and money, just relax, and things are going to come your way eventually. I think just keep, moving forward, but don't let you not having money or having to go after money, I guess, make you nuts or make you insane, because it was starting to make me insane. So I just thought I would do a video on this. It's just me kind of venting, but I don't think a lot of people acknowledge that we slowly but surely become obsessed with certain things, and we don't even know we're doing it. So I am going to wrap it up there. If you get a chance, check out my podcast, The Rich Celenza Show. WTF are you talking about? I'm on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. I also teach Mastering Self-Confidence. I try to help men master their confidence regarding many different things. So, all right, take care.